damn. Okay, the purple? God damn. Ooh.
Wow, I bet he doesn't know how flowers grow or fertilize or where they come from.
I don't. But like, where do they even come from?
But we're here to save the day!
Flowers are everywhere! But to start off, there are structures in every flower that makes up this beautiful organism. Flowers are composed of floral organs, such as the stamen, the carpel, petals, the receptacle, and the stem.
The filament is a slender stalk that supports the anther where the pollen is developed. Both the filament and anther are part of the stamen, the male reproductive system.
The carpel is part of the female reproductive system, consisting of the stigma, style, and ovary containing the ovule. First off, the stigma is located at the top of the style, most known to be a sticky structure in the sticky situation because it captures the pollen. The ovary is the base of the carpel and connects with the style, known to be the long, slender neck of the carpel. Within the ovary contains the one or more ovules, depends on which species represented. The ovule contains the megasporangium, the site where the process of female gametophyte development takes place, while the megasporocyte enlarges and undergoes meiosis that develops 4 haploid megaspores. So, to break this down into steps, 1. The megasporocyte divides through meiosis, creating 4 haploid cells, but 1 survives, leaving 1 megaspore. 2. The megaspore goes through 3 mitotic divisions that forms the embryo sac, the multicellular female gametophyte. And 3. The ovule has now developed the embryo sac that consists of 3 antipodal cells, 2 polar nuclei, 1 egg, and 2 synergids.
Within the microsporangia or pollen sacs of each anthers holds the development of male gametophyte. Each microsporangium contains diploid microsporocytes, and they all go through meiosis to produce 4 haploid microspores, developing into a pollen grain. The mature pollen grain will form 2 sperms and a tube cell.
But like, how do flowers grow?
Okay. There are several ways of how pollination works. Biotics, living agents, such as birds, butterfly, moths, and bees, can help transfer pollination. There are 2 steps for reproduction. The first is pollination. With the help of wind and or biotic, pollen grains are transferred from one flower to another, starting the reproduction process. When the pollen grain sticks to the stigma, it is then absorbed and germinates. The tube cell in the pollen grain creates a pollen tube that grows down the length of the style of the ovary of the female reproductive system.
A tube?
Yes, sir, a tube. And this leads to our next step, double fertilization. What? The 2 sperm nuclei in the pollen grain goes down the pollen tube. One goes to fertilize the egg cell to form a zygote, while the other fuses with the 2 polar nuclei to form an endosperm, which is a food-storing tissue of the seed.
After all of that dirty work occurs, the ovule develops into a seed.
Oh, so this is where a seed comes from.
Yes, the zygote goes through mitosis to form the terminal and basal cell. The terminal cell rises to most of the embryo, while the basal cell divides to create a clump of cells called suspensor, bringing the embryo to the parent plant, helping the transportation of nutrition. As the suspensor grows, the embryo is deeper into the tissues. The terminal cell divides to form a spherical proembryo that attaches to the suspensor. Cotyledons are formed and the embryo elongates. The suspensor attaches and the axis and the embryonic root apex forms. This will result to the endosperm that uses the nutrition by the seedling after germination.
We know when a seed is mature once it meets dormancy, or where the embryo stops growing and its metabolism nearly ceases. A seed coat encloses the embryo along with its food supply. First off, eudicots are known to be an abundant group of angiosperms, or just seed-bearing plants. A eudicot has cotyledons, an embryonic leaf in seed-bearing plants. If there is one cotyledon, it is called a monocot, but if there are two cotyledons, it is called a dicot. Its function is to store food absorbed from the endosperm before it germinates. So let's look closer to its structure and its functions. The cotyledons are attached to the embryonic axis called the hypocotyl. It terminates the radicle or the embryonic root. Above where the cotyledons are attached and below the miniature leaves is the epicotyl, or the young leaves. In response to light, the hypocotyl straightens, the cotyledons separate, and the delicate hypocotyl, now exposed, spreads its true leaves. These leaves expand, become green, and begin making food by photosynthesis. The cotyledons shrivel and fall away from the seedling, their food reserves having been exhausted by the germinating embryo.
Wow! I feel like an intellectual. Now I know where flowers and fruits come from. Thanks, guys.